All right, here we go. Today we have former drug kingpin Javier Panama card. Panama led a violent drug trafficking organization in Washington, D.C. in the 80s and 90s until he was arrested and sentenced to 113 years for murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy charges. He's out of prison now and sharing his story. Panama, welcome to Vlad TV.
Thanks for having me, Vlad. I'm very honored to be here.
Well, let's start at the very beginning. So you were originally born and raised in Panama?
Correct.
In Santa Cruz?
Yeah, well, yes and no. So I went to Santa Cruz because I had a stepfather there that lived there, and I used to go play with my stepbrothers and sisters while I was there. And then I started meeting some of the guys that eventually became the guys that migrated with me to the United States with the crew. So you could kind of say like I lived there and I lived in another place, but yeah, from there.
Okay, and originally you didn't have a very rough upbringing. You had a mother, she worked, you had a roof over your head, you had food. It wasn't like you were in total poverty at that time.
Yeah, I don't have one of those stories. Normally when people hear countries like Panama, they immediately like identify it with third world. But that wasn't my situation. My mom was a very strong, independent woman. I never needed for nothing. I mean, we wasn't rich. We didn't live in no high class neighborhood. I was still living in areas where I was exposed to certain things, but I had a roof over my head. I went to private schools, Boy Scout,
Okay, and then at 11 years old, you got a gold tooth.
Yeah. I got a whooping for that. Yeah.
Okay, and was that sort of a gangster thing during that time?
Yeah, in a way, right? So it's more like a street thing, because there was also people in that era that wore gold teeth that wasn't criminals, but they were more like, down to earth street thing. But with my mom, she knew that what I was inclined to, what I was attracted to. So that's why she was so opposed to it. And I asked my father if she was separated from my father. So when I went and visited my father, I asked him for the money for the gold teeth. He was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I went and put it in, and I didn't say nothing to mom. And when we was eating at the table, she was like, let me see something, open your mouth. And as soon as I opened my mouth, she punched me in my face. Yeah. Yeah. I still got it.
You still got the tooth?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna take it out at some point, though.
All right. So then by age 14, that's when you started doing crimes.
Yeah, I mean, prior to that, it was really more so like bad behavior in school. I was always the kid that could earn the best grades if I really applied myself. But especially if I wanted something, my mom would say, I want you to bring me all A's and I want you to be honor roll and you'll get it. I get it and I just go right back to misbehaving. But up to that point, it wasn't juvenile delinquency yet. So you are correct, like around 14, I started getting in more serious trouble, like with the law and stuff like that.
Right. And originally you started robbing tourists.
Yeah. Started robbing tourists, which was, back in those days, when it comes to crime, Panama wasn't like it is today, where you have all these different drug trafficking organizations and crime is more organized. That was really like the thing, like robbing. But Santa Cruz and certain other neighborhoods was known specifically for robbing tourists. Most of the other neighborhoods just rob anybody. But we kind of somewhat took pride in the fact that we were robbing tourists, because in our mentality, we were thinking that tourists were these super rich people. Of course, now today I know they were hardworking people, probably coming on their vacation, and we looking at them that type of way. So, but at that time, yes.
Well, right. And during that time, the police were actually sanctioned to use extreme force when
Absolutely.
it comes to a situation like this.
Absolutely.
So what would happen if the police caught you robbing a tourist?
Well, the first thing they would do, they probably blow the whistle and say, stop, don't run. But as soon as we started running, they started firing their weapons. If you were known, if they knew who you were, and they knew you were a juvenile, then they'd probably try to aim below your waist. But if they didn't know, they just send it back. I mean, the back, the head, the leg, wherever you get hit, you get hit. And
The interesting part is that this is not actually that uncommon in like South America and Central America. I remember in Brazil, the same thing was happening. You had all these like
Yeah,
orphan kids that would be robbing tourists and everything else like that. And the government actually okayed hit squads to just go and start killing those kids.
exactly. I remember that. That was a big thing about that. Matter of fact, they just did a movie on that. I saw a series or something. Well, here it was like that, but the government didn't like sanction like the kids, but certain adults that they considered to be like incorrigible and just, just couldn't deal with them no more. I did witness sanctions where they just came plain clothes with no uniform, surrounded them as if they were going to arrest them and just gunned them down, like straight up, broad daylight in front of everybody.
Right. And you actually lost some of your friends this way.
Yeah, quite a few before they even turned 18.
How many friends got killed by the police?
Personal to me, I don't
Yeah.
have exact count, Vlad, but I'm gonna say like close to me, I'm gonna count at least a good 15. That's just a rough ballpark figure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you actually see any of these shootings occur?
Yeah.
What was it like to be a 15-year-old and seeing your friend gunned down for stealing a purse?
That's an interesting question. So I think from a normal person's perspective, seeing that would be traumatic. But when someone, I speak for myself, it became like, we became kind of desensitized to that, and the abnormal became normal, kind of like prison in a way. And I think what was more interesting about your question is that instead of those type of traumatic events deterring us from going further with this type of activity, we kept going. And like when you receive a bullet wound and you didn't die, it was like a badge of honor. Like, I got shot. I stepped up at that level now,